All right, good evening, everyone. Just making sure all of our audio is good. I don't want to... Yep, it sounds like we are. I don't want to start this thing and then have some kind of problem, but we've got, like we've been talking about for, I think it's 11 days now. We've been, since not this past Friday, but the Friday before that, we were talking about the possibility of something coming out of Central America, tropically speaking, trying to develop, and then, you know, seeing where that goes. We now have a tangible system out there. By the way, I always try to, it's 8:53. See our timestamp on the weather graphics there, top right of the screen. It's Monday, June the 17th. And this is when this is live. It's real time at that time. If you're watching at a different time, you're watching a recording, the information might be outdated by that point. Sometimes it can be with tropical systems like this. You get some changes. But with this particular system, we've got a fairly good grasp on the direction it's going to go. And regardless of what it is eventually called, I think the impacts for Texas, and specifically the coastal bend, are going to be, they're not going to waver a whole lot. So potential tropical cyclone number one. Here we go. Beginning of what looks like a busy season. And this thing is in the Bay of Campeche. Right now has 40-mile-per-hour winds, but it's not completely organized, so it's not being called a depression or a tropical storm at this point, even though the wind speeds meet that threshold for, you know, tropical storm strength. It's way south of us. It's not organized at this point right now. Might be wondering, okay, well, what is a potential tropical cyclone? It's a relatively new term, and basically the reason this term was invented from the Hurricane Center back in 2017 was for this exact scenario where you have a developing system and that system is going to start interacting with the land in 48 hours or less, delivering tropical storm effects, so to speak. So, you know, without the development at hand, you're not going to get some of the Hurricane Center's products, storm surge stuff, rain, etc. The forecast cone, all of these suite of products that they'll put out when you've got a developed system. So came up with this term, potential tropical cyclone, and that's what we have right now, and that's why we have a forecast cone on this feature. If you've been watching us last week, we've been saying it's going to drift west to northwest toward Mexico, likely staying south of Texas, and that's what the forecast cone is showing. Between Tampico, Mexico, and the Texas-Mexico border, Wednesday night into Thursday morning, moving in as a tropical storm. That's what the forecast shows. The first name on the list is Alberto. So if this gets named, that's what it'll be. It's forecast to gain that status at midnight tonight. So we'll see if the slipper fits. But regardless, again, if this is a depression, just a broad low, a tropical storm, really is not going to change our forecast for the coastal bend. So I thought this was interesting. The fact that the coastal waters of Texas and the coastal bend, all under tropical storm watches at this point, yet we are some 250 miles north of where the center of this is going to be moving in, right? So we're not going to get the direct impact from whatever this is in terms of our proximity to the center. And I am under the opinion that the wind speeds here, which may at times be into tropical storm strength, hence the watch, I think that the wind is more to do with what's called a pressure gradient, a tighter pressure gradient between the big area of high pressure that's going to deliver record heat to the northeast. It's that high in contrast with the broad, weak low in the southwestern Gulf that's going to drive up the wind speeds here, not necessarily the circulation associated with the low in the Gulf. So that's how I see it. That's why the watches are up, and we're over 200 miles away from where this thing may eventually go. But in my opinion, that's why the wind speeds are going to be teetering on tropical storm force in the coastal bend as early as tomorrow and into Wednesday before relaxing a little on Thursday. This is also the same reason we've got this avenue or channel for deep tropical moisture. The moisture column is going to be fully loaded with tropical moisture above the coastal bend. And that is the big reason we're expecting, inches of rain, over a half a foot of rain. Some places could be getting a foot or more of rain between now and Friday, and those extremely high totals were going to be a lot more isolated, but this is the setup. This is what we've got going on. The tropical storm watches, we're not in the path of this thing directly, but the wind speeds may get there, and this is the reason why. So just want to make that clear. It is not coming to the coastal bend, and that's not why we have the tropical storm watches up and in effect. That being said, I easily think we see 20 to 30, maybe 35 mile per hour sustained winds out of this between Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, mainly near the coast. And I do think we get gusts of wind into low-end tropical storm force, which is 39 miles per hour or higher. So the watch is warranted, I'd say, but I'm trying to separate, right, the tropical system from the winds associated with the northern side of this system. And I really think that it's that pressure gradient between the big historic high pressure feature in the northeast causing that increase in wind speed here. 3 days, I think Wednesday is the windiest. I think we're easily getting gusts of tropical storm force near the coast. I do think that that's on the table. We'll get this on a spring day. We'll see this type of wind out of the southeast on a spring day. We can handle this. This is not to the level of boarding up. This is not to the level of, executing your wind plans for tropical systems. This is 20, maybe 35 sustained, gusting up to around 45. We could even say 50. There could be some 50 mile per hour gusts in there, but it's not going to be widespread, and it's going to be primarily near the coast with those highest wind speeds with respect to this system. And I promise, I see the questions coming in. I'm just going to walk through this as, concisely and thoroughly as I possibly can. I'm not just going to jump around. I'm just trying to lay this all out so you can have it, know the thinking behind everything, that's what I'm going to do. So the system at hand, this is our in-house modeling. You can't get this online, like the Euro, the GFS, the NAM, the HWRF, pick your poison there. This is our in-house modeling, and I'm showing it because I think it is congruent with what the forecast cone is showing. So this is just one example of how things may play out. It's simulated radar and clouds. And we'll pick it up here Monday tonight, 10 o'clock. This is into tomorrow now, 3:30. Tomorrow, my take on it is it's still going to have that hot, humid flavor and not the tropical, rainy flavor with respect to how it feels outside tomorrow. I think you're going to see a lot more of those towering cumulus clouds around. There will be widely scattered showers, maybe a thunderstorm in there. But the bulk of the rain Tuesday is still offshore. It's still hot here, Corpus Christi, Texas. You know, we're still low 90s, heat index up around 105. So tomorrow, still kind of hot, but slightly better chances for rain. The rain chance is growing. Tuesday night into Wednesday morning early, pre-dawn, we're going to start getting into some bigger rains. And at this time, the rain is going to be heavier. There's going to be less time between, showers for locations. Could be, continuous for an hour or two at times at this point. And the rainfall rate here is going to be high. So it could be 2 inches plus per hour in some of the heavier stuff heading into Wednesday. And that's when the flood threat is going to start to ramp up locally in the coastal bend. So Wednesday is going to be rainy throughout the majority of the day. It will not rain 24/7 where it's not stopping the entire day. There will be gaps, but when you do get rain Wednesday, it will be heavy. That rain is going to be heavy at times on Wednesday, and that's when the flood threat locally really starts to go up. This is Wednesday, 6 o'clock p.m., driving home. Note the temperature. Low 80s. And offshore, you see how those little banding structures are going to start taking shape. As those move into the coast, that could amplify localized rainfall amounts. Those feeder bands, they're not going to be everywhere. They're going to be, stripes of intense and consistent rainfall. And those are where I think, wherever they set up, there's no way to know right now, but know that if they're possible, that's where problems are going to start, to happen with respect to flooding. You're going to get a lot of rain in a short amount of time, and those things tend to fall over the same place. So it's called training when that starts happening, and that's where the flood concern really starts to ramp up. I will also make this point that here we live in a geographical area called the coastal plains, right? So unlike flooding in, say, the hill country of Texas, you're not going to have terrain that is funneling water and rushing it around like really fast streams, like flash flooding. There probably will be some flash flood warnings that get issued, but our flooding here, by and large, is more to do with the rise of water rather than the rushing rise of water, because we don't have the terrain influence as much here. That being said, you don't ever want to risk driving through a flooded road where you can't see the bottom. The Weather Service mottos, turn around, don't drown, arrive alive, all of that. But there's no way to know what is under that water, even if you're very familiar with the road, when you've got flooding over top of it. So that's the gist on that. Wednesday travel, not the best. Not going to be the best for traveling. And I promise I will try to get to questions as we get them in here. Just going to work through this the best I can. So Wednesday afternoon, we're still talking widespread, heavy tropical downpours. Into Thursday, that's when we'll start to see the rain chances trend away from us. They'll start moving more so into Mexico. We'll still, though, have the possibility of these feeder bands coming in. So while we won't see as much coverage Thursday, the possibility of flooding rain will still be there, given the fact that we could have these feeder bands moving inland on Thursday. The flood risk, this is from the Weather Prediction Center. It's a branch of NOAA, and it's a 1 to 4 scale. Slight is okay. Yes, there's going to be some isolated flooding. Moderate is we're expecting flooding high is it's going to be really, really bad. That's kind of how I think of this in my head. So parts of the coastal bend tomorrow in that slight risk category, and I would have to look it up, but I believe the definition of that is it has to do with a certain radius. So 15% of a 40-mile radius within a given point, you're going to get a flash flood warning. Something like that. That's the specific criteria. But the point I want to make isn't necessarily that. It's that the flood risk is going to increase into Wednesday across much of the region, from Corpus Christi to San Antonio to Houston. High probability that there's going to be flooding as that tropical moisture starts to move in. It goes down on Thursday, but it's not gone. It's not zero, and that's because the coverage of rain is going to go down, but we'll still have that feeder band potential coming in. And then by Friday, it is completely gone. So Wednesday is looking pretty active with respect to flooding concerns in the coastal bend. The totals, 5 to 10 inches in coastal counties, basically east of Highway 77. The higher totals likely closer to the coast. The lower totals are going to be found more inland. And I stepped those down. 3 to 6 is the next range, and then 2 to 4 up in the hill country. So yes, the watershed will be getting rain. It may exceed this in parts of the watershed. It may underperform in other parts of it. But on average, I think 3 to 6 inches is a fair amount to prepare for in the watershed region. And that at the coast, I think that's where the highest flood risk is going to be happening, especially as you get closer to the Gulf of Mexico. And that may go up tomorrow, may ramp that up tomorrow with tomorrow's data. I will say that I'm somewhat conservative in these numbers compared to, some of the other forecasts that are out there. And I'm, more of a conservative forecaster in general. But I think that 5 to 10 inches gets the point across that it's going to be a lot of rain and possibly flooding rains in those higher amounts. The wild card to all of this is that feeder band possibility. And if one of these feeder bands sets up, wherever it does, it's possible that over a foot of rain does fall. That is possible. The guidance is showing it. It's showing up in numerous scenarios. So while it's not possible to know where these set up, I just kind of arbitrarily put them on to show that it's possible throughout Texas. That's where there's a very high flood chance, is under these feeder bands, especially the later into Wednesday we go. So that's a possibility, and it's something to at least note and give you the heads up on, because it can pile up quickly, the rain, especially under these feeder band type of setups. So the coverage tomorrow, mainly widely scattered stuff, meaning 20 to 40% of the viewing area gets rain through the daytime hours of Tuesday. And another way of looking at it is 60 to 80% will not on Tuesday, right? So that's how Tuesday looks. Wednesday, though, it's an all skate. I think everybody's getting rain Wednesday, and that's when it's going to be heaviest and most frequent. Thursday, especially in the morning, numerous showers, some rumbles of thunder mixed in there. And then as the day progresses into Thursday afternoon, I think we start to relinquish some of that coverage. I think that the coverage starts to go down, but it still doesn't mean that the threat is over, especially if a feeder band can kind of sneak in on the backside of that system. So that's how I see the rain coverage with respect to how much of the area the coastal bend is going to be getting over the next 3 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Waves now, I'm going to switch over to the coastal impacts. 8 to 10 feet near shore. These are going to be higher offshore. 10-second period. That is the gap between the different waves. And that screams high rip current risk, danger, 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 Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in our waters. Waves that high, plus the strong onshore flow, there's going to be coastal flooding. The wave activity starts to trend down by Friday, but still going to have a rip risk on Friday, and things, start to settle down more so, a little safer by the weekend, Saturday, Sunday. For the wave heights here. So lots of wave activity, dangerous rip current risk on Gulf-facing beaches. There will be some flood type advisories that are put out for this time frame. And tides are going to run as high as maybe 3 feet above average. So we're looking at the inundation on the coastal areas. I'm not sure on surge. You could kind of conflate that, the higher than normal tides with surge. The system is way south of us, so it's going to be minor, but it will be enough to flood the beaches. Roads like Highway 361, when you add on top of it the rain that'll be falling, that could be hard to get by in some spots. And in lower lying areas, there could be some inundation with respect to the combination of the higher than normal tides and the heavy rains that we're expecting. There may also be some coastal erosion, so sand moving around into different areas on Gulf-facing beaches. And that's Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of this week. The storm surge forecast, this is from the Hurricane Center, 1 to 3 feet on coastal bend beaches. For perspective's sake, Hannah, the storm that knocked out Bob Hall Pier, that was a hurricane. That moved in near Port Mansfield, and that had a 6 to 7 foot surge at Bob Hall Pier. So we're looking less than that. It's going to be 1 to 3 feet. And then at the Texas State Aquarium, it was about a 3, almost 4 foot surge at the Texas State Aquarium. If you remember, the camera panned over, you saw the waves lapping up over the barge dock onto the Texas, the Art Museum of South Texas. That was almost a 4 foot surge. So if you think about it, like the beach was 6 to 7 feet, right, with that surge, and then the surge at the port area was 3 to 4 feet, and we're talking 1 to 3 feet here. It's reasonable to expect maybe 3 feet at Bob Hall and area beaches and 1 foot in the interior parts of Corpus Christi Bay. That's kind of how I would reason that out with myself, and that's for Tuesday, Wednesday, decreasing Thursday. On the storm surge forecast. So not a huge surge, but a small rise, talking 1 to 3 feet inundation with the storm surge. 7-day, we're at the end here, and it's, Wednesday, Thursday are looking the most active. Wednesday for sure looks the most active. We'll have a ramp up Tuesday night and a ramp down Thursday afternoon in terms of how active it is. First day of summer, seasonally cool, 87. How about that? Yeah. It's going to be because of the rain around, but this is going to be a good soaker. It's a beneficial rain for us. We obviously don't want the flooding concerns with it, but that's the way tropical systems are. This is probably best case scenario in terms of impacts. We're not going to be getting the brunt of something deadly. Like with respect to major hurricane, something like that coming in. It's a distant storm that's got a wide spread of impacts, but they're not high impacts. So that's the gist of everything. I will try to answer questions. I'll hang on here till no later than 9:30 for sure. I've got to go and make sure everything is updated for the 10 o'clock news. Driving tomorrow morning, I don't think is going to be bad, Cassie, but Wednesday morning, yes, bad. Travel probably discouraged, just depending on how the rain is panning out. Okay, another one, tornado question. Sometimes on the fringes of tropical systems, there can be weak tornado spin-ups, EF0, EF1, 90 to 100 mile per hour winds, brief touchdown and back up. That is something that we will be watching for, but those tend to stay very, very isolated. So that was a good question. Didn't touch on that here. Rudy, can I play golf on Friday? Depends on the course, partner. Depends on how the course is operating. Again, the questions about travel throughout the region for Wednesday. We're expecting flooding rains. I'm not going to say you're fine to travel. I'm not going to say don't travel at all, but I wouldn't be choosing to drive up to San Antonio on Wednesday given this forecast. I'll put it that way. I wouldn't be driving around like that. Tomorrow, it's fine to drive around, but Wednesday, I wouldn't be doing it. Thursday, we'll have to just see how the rain's panning out. I think Thursday is going to be okay. I think, we'll know where flooding's happening, and if there's a shower in a spot that's already flooded, then we'll know. So it's kind of a ambiguous situation there. It'll be more fluid, not concrete. Okay, getting questions about the rainfall map. If you missed any of this, it's all on the website. I did up our rain chances here given tonight's data, and I raised the totals, the forecast totals, but this is the map. You can get this on our website, KIIITV.com/weather. A lot of this stuff is on there. The wind forecast is on there too. 20 to 30, maybe 35 sustained, some gusts up around 45 miles per hour, which would be low-end tropical storm force. Yes, okay, so we're getting questions about very specific things, which tells me you either just logged on or you weren't paying attention. So all of this information is available on our website. You can rewatch this as well. There's multiple places on the website. Our Hurricane Center, you can find this, and our regular forecast update, you can find this information. Real quick, I'm just going to do something fun here. Okay, Boston's up 8-2-64, 3:03 left in the third. I don't know if that was okay or not, but I just wanted to see. It's on our air. Yeah. I'm going to sign it off here, get back to the main camera, and be ready for big rains. It's going to rain a lot. It'll be fine. It'll be a good event for the watershed, and we'll keep updated with any new things that pop up with respect to either the system at hand in the Gulf of Mexico or how that changes the forecast. We'll be on it, but that's the latest as of now. Time 9:20, and we're going to log off, leave it there. We'll see you at the 10 o'clock newscast if you choose to watch. We'll see you.